Broadcasting from Charlotte, North Carolina, on Sports Byline USA, uniting sports fans everywhere. This is Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
I'm not sure that God really cares about my comfort or my happiness so much as he does my holiness and my surrender to him.
For the next hour, we will unpack sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world.
I think if we're going to get to our full potential in anything, it's going to require community around us.
Bringing you high energy and thought-provoking sports talk with a purpose.
You're going to be defined as a man, as a husband, as a father when you take the uniform off. Who is that guy?
Now, from his mic to your ears, this is Bryce Johnson.
Welcome to Unpacking It, where we unpack sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. I'm Bryce Johnson. We've got an awesome show for you today. First up, we'll be joined by Matt Schick. He's an ESPN broadcaster. He does TV, radio. He's a versatile broadcaster, and we're going to hear all about his faith journey as well as his broadcasting career, and he's a family man, and so we'll talk about that. And then toward the end of the show, we'll welcome on Tony Kemp from the Houston Astros. He's a second baseman and an outfielder, and he actually played his college baseball at Vanderbilt, so a lot to get to with him as well, and we'll hear how he's feeling about this year's team, and they're leading the AL West, and so we'll hear about his faith journey as well. At the end of the show, we'll do our segment Unpack This, and I want to talk about a player who in the NFL is missing out on $10 million because of an injury and poor production last year, and his perspective on the here and now and not dwelling on the past, and so how that relates to our own lives. So you want to stick around for that. Hope that will be an encouragement to all of us today. You can check out our website, unpackingit.com. You can also email me, bryce@unpackingit.com. And while you're on our website, be sure to subscribe to our weekday email devotional. It's a quick thought about sports, faith, and life that we send out through email Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe for free on our website, unpackingit.com. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. We'll be back with Matt Schick right after this. It's Unpacking It on Sports Byline USA, Sirius XM Channel 211, Dan Patrick Radio, and the American Forces Network.
Inspiring conversations and intriguing interviews. More Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson after this. Bringing you unique insight into the faith and character of guests from the sports world. Welcome back to Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
This is Unpacking It. I'm Bryce Johnson. Hope you're doing great today. Check out our website, unpackingit.com. And joining us now is Matt Schick, broadcaster for ESPN, ESPN Radio, and Sirius XM. He has been at ESPN since 2012 and hosts numerous shows along with doing play-by-play as well. He graduated from the University of Colorado and got his career started in Denver before moving on to Nebraska and then ESPN. He was born and raised in Rochester, New York, and now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina with his wife and 4 kids. Matt, so great to have you on Unpacking It today. How are you?
Bryce, that is, I already know you are a great researcher, and all of that, I can fact check all of that very quickly, and all of that was accurate, according to my sources. Everything you said was accurate. Great to be on with you.
That's awesome. Well, actually, I lived in Rochester, New York as a young kid before moving to Charlotte.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was in Fairport, New York.
Yeah, me too.
And, my mom's family is from, she was born in Buffalo. My dad was born in Queens. We settled in Fairport. My mom had a lot of family around there. So Fairport High School. I'm a former Red Raider. I moved right before my senior year of high school.
That is awesome. I moved at the age of 5, but still have fond memories, and especially the cold winters. That's for sure. So
yes. It snows there. It stays there for 6 months. Here in Charlotte, a tad better, where you can actually go outside with 4 kids in the month of January. So it's good.
Exactly. Absolutely. Matt Schick, our guest right now on Unpacking It. And so as I even read your bio and know that you are, involved with different aspects at ESPN. So you host shows, you do some play-by-play, you host different types of shows and interact with different analysts. So of all those different kind of media platforms, what is your favorite aspect of each of those?
Well, I think it's all encompassing in that just being able to work with and meet so many different people. And people that, you watched on TV either growing up or before I got into the business, and now I get to work with some of those people and call them colleagues and ask for advice. And the fact that everyone's very supportive of everybody. And I can, when I'm getting into play-by-play, we had some layoffs a couple of years ago, and my job changed from more of a studio host to, all right, you'll do some studio, but now you're going to do a lot more play-by-play. So I went from calling maybe 1 or 2 play-by-play events a year to 25 to 30 events a year. And it almost happened overnight. And so to be able to, text or email or call different play-by-play voices at ESPN and have them at my disposal, and everyone's looking out for everybody else, those relationships are really cool. I love doing games. I love doing play-by-play of games. I love the prep work that goes into it. The prep work is the toughest part, and then the game starts, and there you go. And those are, getting the energy from the environment and being around the fans, something you don't get when you're kind of in a sterile studio. I love doing the selection shows and unveiling brackets of, we just had the college baseball selection show, and it's cool to know that you're unveiling the bracket and they're out in the country are different campuses that are holding watch parties and watching and waiting for you to mention their name. National Signing Day is cool to watch kids and interview kids moments after, right as they're announcing where they're going to go for the next 3 or 4 years of school. So I've gotten to do a lot of different creative things, and that's the beauty of ESPN is that if you treat people well and you're competent enough, they'll let you do what you want to do, or at least give you a shot. And I've been able to do that.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, so was ESPN always the dream job? And then ultimately, how did you end up there?
Growing up, I wanted to be a doctor, and then quickly realized the debt and the schooling. And so those two things said, you know what, let's try something else. And I was 7, 8 years old, 9 years old as SportsCenter started to become a big deal. 10 years old, 11, I can remember sitting there and watching Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, and Craig Kilborn, Brett Haber, Larry Beal, all these guys, Kenny Mayne, and that was when SportsCenter was on, once a day. And I remember watching, going, well, I love sports, I'm competent at sports, but I recognized very early I was, academically I wasn't the most brilliant kid, but I had enough street smarts to realize very early at the age of 10, 11, or 12 that I wasn't going to play professionally or get a scholarship to play. No one was going to compensate me for my athletic endeavors. And so I decided very early that's what I wanted to do. I got an older sister, a younger brother, and my parents, whenever they would go out and we were old enough to watch ourselves, my sister being a couple years older, they would go out on a date night, and when they came home, we would have a mock newscast filmed with our camcorder for my parents to watch. And I was always a co-anchor with my brother or sister, and then we'd do some skits and creative things. And we didn't have editing equipment, so we had to nail it the first time. And when they would come home, we'd say, okay, we'd pop in the VHS tape, say, here we go. And I would just watch their reaction. And just very early, I knew that I wanted to do TV. I wanted to do sports. And to be able to get to this level is something that is never lost on me. And I think the steps along the way, I'm so glad the journey took as long as it did. I'll put it that way, because it just you just appreciate every little step.
Oh, that's cool. No, unpack that a little bit more. Why you're thankful that it took the direction and the amount of time that it did.
I can remember being in college and doing an internship at Channel 9 KUSA in Denver. I would do newscasts at the University of Colorado, and then I would bring them to my internship and show them to the sports producers. And I remember going, hey, as soon as they see this, they're going to want to hire me because I'm really good. Right? We all have it. My mom thinks I'm Bob Costas at the age of 17. Like things are going to be great. And I remember showing it, and I kind of nod their head. You're in your own little bubble, right? You're only comparing yourself to the kids in your journalism class at Colorado. And I remember thinking, gosh, I could start here. I could start in Denver, and here we go. And you realize that, you have these plans, man plans and God laughs, right? Like you think you have the best idea. And then you realize once you get into the starter market that, okay, this is a lot more challenging than I thought. And then when you start at a base level, I started at a station in central Nebraska, Kearney, Nebraska. Population of the town is 30,000. And I start there, and I'm making mistakes. I'm screwing up. I'm butchering on camera things. I'm watching my newscasts or sportscasts every single night. And it's just these, the journey along the way of being able to mess up. And thank God that it wasn't YouTube back then. Social media was didn't even exist back then. So you're able to screw up and be hidden. And then by the time you're ready, then you're more prepared. But the journey, the relationships you have, and I can remember at the ABC affiliate in central Nebraska, KHGI, NTV, where you're there with a bunch of kids your age, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old, who are all single. You're all trying to get to that next step, and you're all working together. You're not competing against each other. You're competing with each other. And it made you better. And then you take the next step. And I went to Omaha after that. I was a sports director at the Central Nebraska station at the age of 22, I think, 23 years old. And then I go to Omaha, and now I'm back as a weekend sports anchor, and I'm looking up to this 35, 40-year-old sports director, and I'm trying, just proving yourself again and again to new audiences, new people. And I just think, there are people who go straight from college to, hey, now I'm going to start in market number 15, or I'm going to intern there, and now they're going to hire me. You're just not allowed to screw up as much. And I think the journey has made me appreciate it. Where I get to ESPN, and I look in the rear view and go, that was a long journey, but it makes me appreciate where I am. And there are some people who get to a level and they don't, because the journey was so quick, and they don't, it's like a guy going straight from high school to the majors. Yeah. That sense of entitlement can set in. But if you go to A-ball, if you go to AA, if you go to AAA, if you're on long bus rides, if you're helping clean up the locker room, if you're helping mow the grass in the outfield, those things help you appreciate every step you've been, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, good stuff from Matt Schick. He works at ESPN, and when we come back, we're going to hear more about his broadcasting career as well as his faith journey. We've got a lot to get to with Matt Schick right here on Unpacking It, unpackingit.com.
Intriguing guests and inspiring conversations. This is Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
We're back here on Unpacking It. I'm Bryce Johnson. Our website, unpackingit.com. On there, you can subscribe to our weekday email devotional where we take a quick thought about sports, faith, and life and send it to you through email for free. So check that out on unpackingit.com. We'll also do our segment, Unpack This, to wrap up the show in just a little bit. But right now, we're in the middle of a conversation with the versatile broadcaster at ESPN, Matt Schick. And we continue with him now. Love hearing about your career and how you ended up at ESPN, but would also love to hear a little bit about your faith journey. And I'll just ask, when did you decide to follow Jesus, and what was that process like for you to get to that point?
I was raised Catholic by my parents and had a great upbringing in that regard. Went to church every week, and growing up, it felt it didn't feel very as tangible to me. And then once I got to college, I got involved with a campus ministry called Campus Crusade for Christ.
Oh yeah.
And I started being around kids that kind of shared my values. They were more. It was a diverse group of people, but we had core values that we shared, and I think I quickly learned that once you have that that Christ-centeredness, which I always believed I had, but I probably didn't. It didn't really become real to me until college. Once you have that Christ-centeredness, everything else, that filters out into everything else and spills into every other area of your life. And so in college has really started to take off for me. And some of my best friends are those who I met through that campus ministry.
That's awesome.
And in fact, it came at a time where I was really struggling in college, trying to have friends that didn't force me to compromise who I was or who I wanted to be. That culture shock at Colorado in college was tough because we had just moved from New York to Colorado the year prior for my senior year of high school. So I had 2 consecutive years of just new people and new environments and just trying to find my identity. So anyway, in school, that became a big deal. And then eventually, a couple of years later, it was after my junior year of college, I went on a summer missions trip, a summer project to San Diego, where we had to raise a couple of grand, and I spent 9 weeks in San Diego. And I met my wife out there. And she was at St. Cloud State at the time, and she came out with a couple of her. We had 95 college kids from all over the country that met in San Diego, and we did 9 weeks together, some Bible studies and learning how to use your job as a ministry opportunity, not just a job to make money, but to meet both ends. And so we were able to do that. We evangelized and tried to share the gospel on the beach, which was great because you could go up to people and talk, and they couldn't say we were too busy. You're on the beach. So it was good. That taught me about sharing the gospel, sharing the good news, discipleship, evangelism, all those things that Jesus preached. And so that's where that really took flight. And then that spilled over into getting into the business and treating people certain ways. And there wasn't really that one light bulb moment. It's been a gradual deal for me, but it really started in college.
Oh, that's so cool. I did Campus Crusade as well up at App State, so love that ministry and had a great impact on me as well. Matt Schick, our guest right now on Unpacking It. He's a broadcaster for ESPN. And so how does your faith affect how you view your job and even making sure that your job doesn't become your identity?
It's a daily challenge. That is the biggest struggle. And I think, you can call yourself a Christian, and that means what you're doing is not saying you're perfect. You're admitting you're imperfect.
That's right. And
that you need help. And that is a daily struggle for me. My smartphone makes me dumb because I am, I feel like, and sometimes I use it as an excuse, but I try to know everything that's going on because I host a weekly, radio show on ESPN Radio, or I'm hosting this college football show, so I need to know what these coaches are saying. So I'm listening to podcasts and all this, and I am so full of information about sports. But that can, when I'm at home, and I'm sorry, I need to check Twitter to see what this writer is writing about because I got the show in 2 days. It is a daily challenge for me to make sure that I'm limiting that and focusing on the things that are important. Because I'm great at the worldview perspective, but sometimes it's that minutia, day by day, minute by minute, that you can get caught up in the things that aren't as important. So I think my perspective is good, but it's a daily challenge to make sure that I am want to be in the world but not of it. And I think, you become what you're around. And so admittedly, I need to do a better job of that. I think it's, without the anchor of Christ, I would get caught up a lot more in what the world thinks of me or what people are saying about me or, what they tweeted me or post about me, because social media can be a big wormhole where you start feeling worse about yourself. I think at the very least what my faith has allowed is that I don't care what other people, especially those that I don't know, think about me, because I know what God, what Christ, and what my family think about me.
So awesome to hear. Matt Schick, our guest right now on Unpacking It, broadcaster for ESPN. And Matt, as we wrap things up, man, I could talk to you all day. But I've kind of been asking this question as we wrap things up for the last few months because my wife is due with our first child in August.
That's awesome.
And so I got to ask you, as a father of 4, what advice do you have for a first-time dad?
Oh, wow. Trying to reflect on our first child. So we had 4 kids, 4 kids under 5 for about 2 months, and then our oldest turned 5. I will say that as you have more kids, the first kid, you're like, he's in a bubble. We're never letting him out of the house for the first 5 years. And then by the time you get to kid 4, it's, is he playing out in traffic? He'll be fine. It's like your perspective certainly changes. But for the first one, there are a few things. One, make sure you're doing as much as you can to share the responsibilities with your wife, because although she might be breastfeeding, getting up in the middle of the night and all that, make sure you're doing whatever you can to assist in that, because that will go a long way for your marriage. The other things are very trivial, yet can go a long way. Don't do anything. You have to always play the long game. Don't do anything consistently that you aren't going to do for the next 2 or 3 years. Specifically, allowing your children to sleep in your bed with you. Don't do that. I just met with someone the other day who said, yeah, my daughter slept in my bed for the first 7 years of her life. Don't ever do that. Our children never slept in our bed. That's a sacred spot. That's our place. Please, children, you have your own place. That is one thing. The other, you need to learn the beauty of the dream feed, which is when the baby is swaddled, before you go to bed, as the baby, you've got that bottle of milk or whatever it is, breast milk that has been pumped. Dad, that is your time. Wake the child up. Well, you're not even waking. 11:30 at night, that baby is swaddled. Feed that baby. That baby won't wake up, but it will eat. He or she will eat. And then that'll buy you 3 or 4 more hours of sleep. You will learn very quickly that your happiness in life is directly correlated to the sleep habits of your child. And so make sure that those sleep habits, sleep training, all of those things come as soon as possible, because otherwise your first child will be your last, because you will never, ever want to do it again. So, but I will say it is the greatest trade-off in the history of life, in that you give up so much. You give up a lot of your social life. You give up a lot of your freedom, but you gain so much more. And that this child that you just met, you would fall in front of traffic for that child to bring it back full circle. So it's the greatest blessing. It's the greatest miracle. And you start thinking about Bible stories as soon as you see that child. Go, oh my goodness, Abraham and going to the mountain. My goodness, this is really powerful. And think about God giving up His only Son for you. I would never do that for anyone. So it's the perspective that you gain the moment that child is born is really incredible. And so, best of luck and prayers to you, because it is a journey that it's so life changing. You're never ready for it. It's like marriage, right? You'd never get married if you had to be ready to get married, and you'd never have a child if you had to be ready.
That's right.
The moment you leave that hospital, you will be shocked that they allow you to take that child home by yourself. You will drive 25 and a 55 for that child, and it's great. So blessings to you, prayers to you, and that's congratulations in advance. That's great.
Oh, that's excellent. No, I appreciate that. Really thoughtful advice from Matt Schick, and Matt, really appreciate you joining us here on Unpacking It today. Just love your heart and all that you shared with us today, and we'll definitely have to do this again.
Anytime. Look, really enjoyed it, and look forward to the next time. Thanks, Bryce.
He's Matt Schick from ESPN right here on Unpacking It. Up next, Tony Kemp from the Houston Astros is our guest right after this.
bringing you unique insight into the faith and character of guests from the sports world. Welcome back to Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
Hey, it's Bryce Johnson, and it is time to start thinking about the upcoming fantasy football season. And good news, Unpacking It Ministries has a resource for you that will take you from the draft all the way through the championship. Order your Fantasy Football Fellowship playbook today, and each week, read about a fantasy concept and how it relates to the Bible and our own lives. It's designed for your league to discuss at weekly league meetings, on the phone, or in person. The FFF Playbook will add more meaning and purpose to the fantasy season and add value to your league. Grow in your faith, build deeper relationships with other owners in the league, and make more of your fantasy season. Join us at fantasyfootballfellowship.org and find all the details and order the FFF Playbook today. That's fantasyfootballfellowship.org.
Bringing you unique insight into the faith and character of guests from the sports world. Welcome back to Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking It. Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Matt Schick from ESPN. If you ever miss any part of our show, you can check out our podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Unpacking It. Coming up, we've got our segment Unpack This, but we've got another great guest for you. And joining us now is Tony Kemp, a second baseman and outfielder for the AL West leading Houston Astros. He played college baseball at Vanderbilt, where he won SEC Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year. He made his major league debut in 2016 and won a World Series ring with the Astros in 2017. He joins us today to talk faith, baseball, and life. Tony, thanks so much for being with us on Unpacking It. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just doing good.
Man, that's awesome. No, glad to have you. And so we're almost to the All-Star break. So how have you felt about the season so far for you personally and for the team?
Yeah, it's been going well. We're still sitting first in the AL West, and we had a little rough patch in this last road trip. Only won one game against the Yankees. The Reds played us really well. They won 3 one-run ball games. So it's always tough. But we won the season against the Yankees. So that's what's important. You got to take the positives away from the road trip. But, myself feel good about, contributing to the team any way I can. We got a lot of good talent on this team with Altuve, George Springer, Correa be back after All-Star break, Brantley, Josh Reddick, Justin Verlin. I mean, the list goes on and on. But, we're playing well right now. Just got to keep it going.
That's awesome. So what is the mindset like now that you guys have already won a World Series? You know what it takes. So at this point in the season, like how do you approach it differently, having already done it before?
Yeah, I think that's the advantage, obviously, of winning. You see what you have to do to get there, and I think the guys are more hungry than ever, just because losing to Boston at home, especially me, because I was the last out. I flew out to left field, and you think about those things and you remember those things going into the off season. You kind of have a different fire inside you that you work toward, and obviously you want to be the best team in the big leagues, and that's the goal. And I think this team's good because of just how they treat each other, and everybody comes to the clubhouse in a positive manner, and everybody's always just ready to work, and it shows, and everybody gets along with everyone here, and everybody has a certain amount of respect for each other. So I think that's important when you building a team.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Tony Kemp, our guest right now on Unpacking It. And so I'm sure you've been watching the College World Series and you're proud of your alma mater, Vanderbilt. But what do you miss most about playing college baseball?
Yeah, I've been last night I was hitting in the cage, and I flipped on the game for about 30 seconds just to check in and see what the score was, and we were up 4-1 at the time, so I feel like we could have pulled the win out, and we did. So I think college baseball is just a whole different atmosphere, and you miss it because you're all working toward one goal, and there's no contracts, there's no politics. This guy is a first-round draft pick, so he has to play, and it's just it doesn't matter what percentage of scholarship you're on. It's whoever's the best player is going to play, and I just miss that about college baseball. And it's so unique and it's so innocent, so real, and especially being with your guys, you spend so much time together in the dorms and walking to class and lunch, and you're going through practices from I don't know 2-3 hours, and then you go to study hall, and then after study hall and lunch or dinner, you're going back to the dorm. So it's just a whole different grind you have with a different bunch of guys that are 18 to 21 years old. So it's just a whole different ball game from high school to college. But I remember seeing the last out being made in our super regional against Louisville, and yeah, it's tough. I remember obviously a lot of guys were crying because you realize that you're never gonna step foot on the college baseball field again and compete. So I miss a lot of things about college, but once you can take that next step to pro ball, I think that that goes away a little bit.
That's true. Tony Kemp, our guest right now on Unpacking It. He's a second baseman and outfielder for the Houston Astros. And so as we kind of progress throughout your baseball career and talk a little college baseball, but also want to get your thoughts on minor league baseball, because I'm just kind of fascinated by just how tough it is, to get to the next level and to grind it out in minor leagues. And so what was your experience like in the minors? And when you consider that season of your life, what are some things that come to mind?
Yeah, the minor leagues is definitely, I never use the word grind, but once you get to the minor leagues, grind is definitely the word for it. We still talk about it, a bunch of the guys that are in the big leagues now with the Astros, we still talk about how hard it is, what we do. At a time, there's only 750 guys that can be on, in the major leagues with 30 teams. And that's what's saying, man, there's still less than 20,000 big leaguers who's ever stepped foot on a big league field or been on a big league roster. There's still less than 20,000 ever since, the early 1900s. So that's just wild to me. You can't even fill up a big league stadium with all the big leaguers who have ever played the game, if you think about it. So yeah, it's some things that, people don't think about, just being in the elite category of, how hard it is to do what we do. And, the minor leagues is a different grind because it's tough because you're not really in that college mode anymore. You're with guys who've been in pro ball. Maybe you run into some guys who are high school picks, and it's a whole different broad of guys who you get brought into, and it's your teammates. And, college, it's all about the team. And, once you get to minor leagues, it's about the team a little bit, but it's more about you making your own path, and it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world. And, I signed and got sent to Troy, New York, and played for the Tri-City, the Valley Cats there. Stayed there for about a month or so and got called up to low A. And, that was the first time I was introduced to Carlos Correa. And, we've been great friends ever since 2013. And
nice.
We've played up the middle mostly throughout our minor league careers up until Double A. And then he moved up a little faster than I did. He got called up to the big leagues in 2015, and I was in 2016. But the minor league is just a different world. It's 140 or so games, and that's not including playoffs. And the pay is, you're getting paid about $400 every 2 weeks, and
wow.
Some guys get signing bonuses. Some guys get paid more than other guys, depending on your signing bonus. But other than that, the pay is about $400 every 2 weeks. It's tough. And most guys are living 3 or 4 to an apartment, 2-bedroom. You might have 2 guys living out in the common area, in the living area. It's a different grind. It's a fun experience, and those guys who are grinding out there, just don't give up. There's always a new day tomorrow, and keep staying in it.
That's right. Tony Kemp, our guest right now on Unpacking It. He's with the Houston Astros, sharing a little bit about his journey with us today. And not only is it hard to make it to the big leagues, but then also to stay in the big leagues. And so I want to go. Part of your story too is you make it in 2016, but then you also went back down to AAA before returning to the Astros. And so, what was that part of your journey like, and how was your faith challenged during that time?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I understood that we had a good team. I was a rookie at the time. I wasn't starting that much. I was more of a pinch hit role, late pinch runner mode, and I would start every now and then. And it's actually a funny story. I got sent down when we were playing the Kansas City Royals, and my good friend now, he's actually a groom in my wedding, AJ Reed.
Oh, nice.
He was he was the number one prospect at the time for the Astros, and he'd been killing it, hitting 350, 360, and it was about time for him to come up. He was in AAA, and they're like, hey, we're going to call up AJ. I think it's the time's right, and we're going to option you back down to the minor leagues, and which was okay. It's all silver linings and how God aligns your path. And when I got optioned, my wife now was actually in Toronto, and she wasn't allowed to come into the United States because she still had her Canadian passport, and they thought that she was moving back to the States. And turns out she wasn't able to see my big league debut. So once I got optioned, I was able to fly up to Toronto for 3 days and hang out with her and kind of share that moment and that experience with her. And, everything happens for a reason. And, obviously your faith is going to be tested, because once you get optioned, you're like, all right, I got that taste of the big leagues. I did okay, but can I play in the big leagues? Like, can I play with the big boys? And, I felt like I could. I got, called back up, right before September or so, and did well and hit a home run on my friend that passed away, his like 2 days before his birthday, and hit a home run, and that home run was for him. And just things it's funny how, talking about it now, you really don't think about it, but how many times God works in your life, and you never know when he's gonna pop up and surprise you, but you just have to keep that faith and keep it strong.
Absolutely. And so along those lines, looking at your Twitter bio, you've got two different verses on there with a very similar theme. So Hebrews 10:35, so do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord, and then Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So why did you put those two on the Twitter bio, and what do those two verses mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I love going through the Bible, and I love he takes us through verses. We're going through Matthew right now, and because we're not able to go to church on Sundays, obviously, those two verses are huge for me, just because, in baseball, you can get down on yourself really easy. It's a game of failure, and you have to know that. You're a Hall of Famer if you're successful 3 out of 10 times in this game. That's Hall of Fame status. So just being able to know that it's a game of failure. Hebrews 10:35, do not throw away your confidence, because it will be richly rewarded, is big for me, just because the confidence you need to walk up to the plate, to go play defense, confidence is the number one thing in this game. First thing is confidence, and the rest are your abilities and your mental, and you have to be confident in yourself and know that you have the abilities to play this game. So, don't throw your confidence away. I think that is just, it encompasses everything that I believe in. And Proverbs 3:5 is, don't lean on your own understanding. It's huge for me, because we go through this life as humans and we want to be in control of everything. And, that's not the case. God's in control of everything that we do day in and day out. He's already scheduled everything in our lives. So, being able to, rely on those verses is everything for me, because, we can't do this life alone. We just have to make sure that we're just day in, day out, not taking advantage of, the good life that we live, and just being blessed every day.
Amen. Amen. Well, Tony, I know you got to get going, but one other thing I wanted to mention is also on your Twitter bio, you're a 2-time fantasy football champion. I'm a huge fantasy football guy, and I've won a few rings myself. So what's your secret to success?
Yeah, I enjoy fantasy football. It's always fun. My wife actually has gotten into it, and she won the league last year, so she's been rubbing it all in my face. But it's it's good. It's all about the sleeper picks. I think it's not about, you have to have a good first round draft pick, I'd say. Other than that, I think third, fourth, and fifth rounds are the most important, because those are the guys that aren't huge names, but they're guys that could have breakout seasons, and you just have to scout those guys.
I like it. I'm right there with you. Well, Tony, man, it was awesome to have you on the show today. Really appreciate you joining us here on Unpacking It, and wish you the best the rest of the way this season, and good luck to the Houston Astros the rest of the way as well. So thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
He's Tony Kemp from the Houston Astros. Up next, we'll do our segment Unpack This about not looking back. It's Unpacking It.
Inspiring conversations and intriguing interviews. More Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson after this.
This is Unpacking It. I'm Bryce Johnson. It's time for our final segment of the day. We call it Unpack This, where I take a current sports story and relate it to the Bible and our own lives. So let's jump right in. Unfortunately for Philadelphia Eagles defensive tackle Tim Jernigan, he missed 13 games during the 2018 season. Because his back injury caused a lack of production, the Eagles chose not to pick up his $11 million contract option, and he's returning to the team with a base salary of only $1.25 million this year. It's disappointing that his injury is costing him so much, but Jernigan is trying to keep a positive approach and has commented, "I'd rather not look back on that situation. It is what it is. It's over. My focus is on what's going on now. I'm just excited about what we've got going on here." The headline on ProFootballTalk.com reads, "Tim Jernigan only looking forward after rough 2018 season." Now, maybe we haven't missed out on $10 million, but we've all had rough seasons with missed opportunities, regrets, and failed expectations. When we face these unfortunate circumstances, do we choose to dwell on what happened to us or focus on what's going on now? Do we spend more time thinking about what could have been and how we should have done things differently, or do we leave it all in the past and decide not to look back at that situation? Sure, it's important to remember God's faithfulness in the past in order to give us hope for the future, but even the great moments are over now too. God is doing something in us and through us right now, so let's stop looking back. The Lord says, "But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do, for I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it?" Today, let's ask God to help us focus on the now and the future. Knowing that the past is over, let's believe He's going to do something new. Our past may be filled with heartache, but if we fill ourselves with Jesus and trust Him for what's next, we won't have room to dwell on what's already happened. So I hope you're willing to unpack that for yourselves, and really appreciate you joining me today, and hope you'll stay connected with us throughout the week on social media and on unpackingit.com. If you have any thoughts about today's show, you can email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com. Until next time, I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that He died on the cross for my sins, He was resurrected, and through faith, I have been saved by His grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a wonderful week. This has been Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson on Sports Byline USA and SiriusXM, Channel 211, Dan Patrick Radio.